Behind the infectious "Mo to the E to the" theme song and Brandy's braids lay shocking secrets that would make Moesha fans do a double take. From a disastrous audition that almost killed the show before it started, to real siblings playing fictional half-brothers, to a star quitting over moral objections, to a controversial storyline, the Mitchell household was hiding drama that rivaled any episode plot. Get ready to discover the wild behind-the-scenes chaos that shaped one of the 90s most beloved sitcoms. Fact 1. CBS originally rejected the show. What would become one of the most beloved sitcoms of the 1990s almost never made it to television because the original network didn't want it. Moesha was initially developed and ordered as a pilot for CBS during their 1995 to 1996 television season. But when executives at the major network reviewed the show, they decided to pass on it entirely. This rejection turned out to be one of the biggest mistakes in television history, because the show that CBS deemed unworthy would go on to become a massive hit for a completely different network. After CBS said no, the pilot found its way to UPN, a much smaller and newer network that was desperately looking for content to fill their programming schedule. UPN picked up Moesha as a mid-season replacement, meaning they used it to fill a time slot when another show had failed or been cancelled. The decision to give Moesha a chance proved to be absolutely brilliant for UPN. The show, starring Brandy as a teenage girl navigating life in Los Angeles, became not just a hit, but the biggest success in the entire history of the UPN network. During its six-season run from 1996 to 2001, Moesha consistently drew large audiences and became the longest-running series that UPN ever produced. The irony of CBS's rejection became even more obvious when you consider that UPN was a much smaller network with far fewer resources than CBS. While CBS had established hits and big-budget productions, UPN was still trying to find its identity and build an audience. Yet, this little network managed to turn the show that CBS rejected into a cultural phenomenon that launched spin-offs, made Brandy a household name, and gave young African-American viewers a show they could truly relate to. The success of Moesha on UPN proved that sometimes the biggest networks don't always know what audiences actually want to watch. Fact 2. Brandy's audition was so bad, it almost killed the show. Even though Brandy was already a successful recording artist with a hit album under her belt, her acting skills during the initial audition process were so terrible that they nearly destroyed the entire project before it could get off the ground. The show's creator, Ralph Farquhar, was completely convinced that Brandy was the perfect person to play Moesha, but when it came time for her to actually perform the role during the table read, everything went horribly wrong. A table read is when all the actors sit around a table and read through the script out loud, so that producers and writers can hear how the dialogue sounds and see if the actors work well together. For most television shows, this is a crucial step in the development process, and if it goes badly, it can mean the end of the entire project. Unfortunately for Moesha, Brandy's performance during this critical moment was absolutely disastrous. Ralph Farquhar was brutally honest about just how bad Brandy's reading was when he later reflected on the experience. He admitted that her performance was so horrible that if the network executives had been present to hear her attempt at acting, they would have immediately pulled the plug on the entire show. The creator's exact words were that she was so bad during the reading that the network would have canceled everything on the spot. What made this situation even more dangerous was that Farquhar had already committed to Brandy as his lead actress, and he truly believed she was the right choice for the character despite her lack of acting experience. The problem was that believing in someone's potential and actually having them deliver a convincing performance are two completely different things, and during that table read, Brandy simply could not deliver what was needed. Fortunately for everyone involved, the network executives were not present during this disastrous reading, which gave Farquhar and the production team time to figure out how to fix the problem before it was too late. Fact 3. Kim Fields secretly coached Brandy into shape. When it became clear that Brandy's acting skills were not ready for television, the producers made a desperate decision to bring in a secret weapon to save their show. They hired Kim Fields, a veteran actress who had been working in television since she was a child, to work as Brandy's personal acting coach and transform her into someone who could actually carry a sitcom. Kim Fields was the perfect choice for this crucial job because she had extensive experience both as a child actor and as someone who had successfully transitioned into adult roles. She was best known for playing Tootie on the long-running sitcom The Facts of Life, and she understood exactly what it took to deliver consistent performances week after week on a television series. More importantly, she knew how to work with young performers who were still learning their craft. The coaching arrangement was kept relatively quiet, but it turned out to be absolutely essential for the success of Moesha. Fields worked intensively with Brandy to teach her the fundamentals of acting for television, including how to deliver lines naturally, how to work with other actors in scenes, and how to maintain character consistency throughout long filming days. This was particularly challenging because television acting requires a very different set of skills than recording music in a studio. Brandy was completely open about how much she struggled in the beginning and how crucial Kim Fields was to her eventual success. She later admitted that everybody thought she was terrible at acting when she first started, and she credited Fields with completely transforming her approach to the craft. In her own words, Brandy said that Kim Fields snapped her into major discipline and that without Fields' guidance and training, she never would have been able to nail the role of Moesha. The intensive coaching sessions paid off dramatically, as Brandy went from nearly destroying the show with her poor table read to becoming the confident and capable leading actress that audiences fell in love with throughout the show's 6-season run. Fact 4. Brandy initially refused to audition. Even though the creators of Moesha had their hearts set on Brandy and wanted only her to play the title character, she actually refused to audition for the role when they first approached her. This resistance came as a surprise to the producers, who had specifically written the character with Brandy in mind and were convinced she would be perfect for the part. The reason for Brandy's reluctance had everything to do with a previous acting experience that had left her with a very negative impression of working in television. Before Moesha came along, Brandy had appeared on a sitcom called Thea when she was just 13 years old. This show starred comedian Thea Vidale and was supposed to be Brandy's big break into acting. But the experience turned out to be anything but positive for the young performer. During her time on Thea, Brandy had significant conflicts with the show's creator and star, Thea Vidale herself. The working environment was difficult and unpleasant, and Brandy found the whole experience so traumatic that it completely turned her off from the idea of acting in television shows. The situation became even worse when Thea was cancelled after just one season, due to ongoing problems between Vidale and the show's executives. After that disappointing experience, Brandy decided to focus entirely on her music career, which was already taking off with her successful debut album. When Ralph Farquhar and the other creators of Moesha approached her mother and manager with the script and asked Brandy to audition, she was completely uninterested in returning to television acting. Brandy was very direct with her mother about her feelings, telling her flat out that she was not an actress and that she didn't take her acting seriously. She had convinced herself that television was not the right path for her, and she wanted to stick with what she knew worked, which was making music and building her recording career. It was only after reading the actual script for Moesha and connecting with the character that Brandy finally changed her mind and decided to give acting another chance. Fact 5. Ray J played 3 different characters. In one of the most unusual casting decisions in television history, Ray J, who is Brandy's real-life younger brother, actually appeared on Moesha as 3 completely different characters throughout the show's run. This strange arrangement meant that the same actor kept showing up in different roles, playing entirely separate people who had nothing to do with each other within the show's storyline. Ray J's first appearance on Moesha came during the early seasons when he played a character named Charles. This character was part of an episode called Million Boy March, where he appeared as a member of something called the Council of the Concerned Youth. Charles was a minor character who only appeared in one episode, and most viewers probably didn't pay much attention to the fact that he was played by Brandy's actual brother. The second time Ray J appeared on the show was during season 4, but this time he played himself rather than a fictional character. This was part of a special episode where Brandy also appeared as herself alongside her character Moesha, creating a strange situation where the real-life siblings were both on screen as themselves, while Brandy was also playing her fictional character. Ray J's third and most significant role came in Season 5, when he joined the cast as a regular character named Dorian Long. Initially, Dorian was introduced as Moesha's cousin, who had come to live with the Mitchell family, but later in the series it was revealed that he was actually Moesha's half-brother, the result of an affair that their father Frank had during his first marriage. What makes this situation particularly weird is that Ray J went from playing a random minor character to playing himself to finally playing Brandy's fictional half-brother, even though in real life he was her actual full brother. The fact that the same person kept appearing in completely different roles throughout the show's run was unusual even by television standards, and it created a confusing situation for viewers who were paying close attention to the casting. Fact 6. Kobe Bryant made his acting debut on the show. One of the most memorable celebrity guest appearances on Moesha came from someone who would later become one of the greatest basketball players in history, but at the time was just an 18-year-old rookie who had recently been drafted into the NBA. Kobe Bryant made his acting debut on the show in an episode called The Whistleblower, playing a character named Terry Hightower, a talented basketball player who needed help preparing for his SAT exams. The connection between Kobe Bryant and the show went beyond just a simple guest appearance, because he and Brandy had actually attended prom together in real life before his episode aired. After meeting at the 1996 Essence Awards, Brandy agreed to go to prom with Kobe at his high school in Philadelphia, Lower Merion High School. This real-life friendship made it natural for Kobe to appear on the show later that same year, after he had been drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. In the episode, Kobe's character Terry initially approaches Moesha asking for help with cheating on his SAT test, but Moesha, being the moral center of the show, refuses to help him cheat and instead encourages him to believe in himself and study properly for the exam. True to the show's positive messaging, Terry follows Moesha's advice and ends up doing well on the test legitimately, earning the college scholarship he needed. The timing of Kobe's appearance was particularly interesting because it came right at the beginning of what would become one of the most legendary careers in basketball history. At the time of filming, he was still adjusting to life as a professional athlete and was just beginning to establish himself as a player worth watching. Few people could have predicted that this young guest star would go on to win 5 NBA championships and become a global icon. The episode also featured a small detail that fans noticed years later. At the end of the episode, Moesha is shown wearing a Lakers jersey with the number 8 on it, which was the first jersey number that Kobe wore when he played for the Lakers. Fact 7. The theme song was created in 15 minutes. One of the most recognizable theme songs in television history was actually created in just 15 minutes, during what can only be described as a musical miracle. The catchy opening tune that begins with the famous line about Mo to the E to the came together so quickly that even the people involved were amazed by how perfectly everything fell into place. The story began when the producers of Moesha contacted music composer Kurt Farquhar and asked him to create a theme song for their new show. Farquhar immediately got to work on developing a musical piece that would capture the energy and spirit of the series. But before he could finish, the producers called him back with an important update. They explained that Brandy herself wanted to be involved in writing the song because she had some creative ideas of her own that she wanted to contribute. Even though Farquhar had already started working on his own version, he was willing to collaborate and see what they could come up with together. When Brandy arrived at the studio, she began singing her idea for the theme song, which started with the now famous lyrics that spell out Moesha's name in a rhythmic, catchy way. As soon as she started singing, Farquhar realized something extraordinary was happening. The musical piece that Farquhar had been working on independently was in exactly the same key as what Brandy was singing. Not only that, but the chord changes in his composition happened at precisely the same moments where Brandy's melody changed, and both pieces ended at exactly the same time. It was as if they had been working together all along, even though they had developed their ideas completely separately. Farquhar later described this moment as an incredible case of musical synchronicity, where two completely independent creative processes somehow aligned perfectly. When Brandy sang her version while Farquhar played his instrumental piece, the combination was so natural and seamless that they knew immediately they had created something special. The entire process of putting the final theme song together took only 15 minutes from start to finish. Fact 8. There were 7 different opening sequences. Throughout its 6-season run, Moesha went through an unusually high number of changes to its opening credits, featuring a total of 7 different opening sequences and 4 different versions of the theme song. This constant evolution of the show's visual presentation was far more extensive than what most television series typically do, making Moesha almost unique in how frequently it redesigned its opening moments. The first season opening showed Moesha dancing in front of a fountain, walking with her friends, dancing inside a moving car, and playing a game of chess that she wins while waving at a guy as he walks away. This original sequence established the basic visual style that would carry through many of the later versions, but it was just the beginning of the show's visual journey. Seasons 2 and 3 used the same basic scenario as Season 1, but made several important changes to keep things fresh. The most notable addition was a bass guitar player who appeared behind Moesha while she was dancing in front of the fountain, giving the opening a more musical feel that matched the show's connection to the music industry through Brandy's singing career. Season 4 took a completely different approach by showing the cast moving around their neighborhood and featuring Moesha, Kim, and Nisi dancing at the fountain while wearing matching red outfits. This version gave viewers a better sense of the show's Los Angeles setting and emphasized the friendship between the main characters. Season 5 introduced a more cinematic style by showing the cast in a panoramic view, while Brandy lip-synced to the theme song against a background of clouds and a rising sun. This version had a more dreamy, aspirational quality that reflected Moesha's growth as a character. The 6th and final season opening was similar to Season 5, but included a significant twist that reflected changes in the cast. Since Yvette Wilson had left Moesha to join the Parkers, and Cheryl Lee Ralph's character had become a recurring rather than main character, the Season 6 opening featured footage of Brandy lip-syncing over the portions where Wilson and Ralph had previously appeared, creating a subtle but noticeable change for regular viewers. Fact 9. Cheryl Lee Ralph quit over moral objections. Cheryl Lee Ralph, who played Moesha's stepmother Dee Mitchell, made the difficult decision to leave her starring role after Season 5 because she strongly disagreed with a major storyline that she felt undermined everything the show had worked to accomplish. The controversial plot development that caused her departure was the revelation that Frank Mitchell, Dee's husband and Moesha's father, had fathered a child through an extramarital affair during his first marriage. This storyline was introduced in an episode called Secrets and Lies that aired in February of 2000, where the Mitchell family learned from Aunt Hattie that Frank was actually the biological father of Dorian, who everyone had believed was Frank's nephew. Up until this point, the show had presented the Mitchell family as a strong, moral, and loving unit that represented positive values and served as a role model for African American families on television. Ralph felt that this plot twist completely destroyed the positive image that the show had carefully built over its first several seasons. She believed that Moesha had been important because it showed a successful black family with strong values and good relationships, which was something that was rarely seen on television at the time. To her, the affair storyline didn't add meaningful depth to the show, but instead tore down the foundation of everything that had made the Mitchell family special and relatable to viewers. In interviews years later, Ralph explained that she had loved working on Moesha and considered it an incredible working environment until this storyline was introduced. She questioned why the writers felt they needed to destroy the family by making Frank into a liar and someone who had betrayed his wife's trust. Ralph was particularly frustrated by people within the production who argued that the family had been too good and that they needed to add more dysfunction because they didn't believe that positive black families like the Mitchells actually existed in real life. After expressing her concerns and finding that the storyline would continue, Ralph stepped back from her role as a main cast member and only made occasional appearances during the show's final season. Fact 10. The pregnancy cliffhanger. was meant for the Parkers. One of the most frustrating unresolved mysteries in television history was actually supposed to have an answer, but a series of circumstances prevented fans from ever finding out the truth. The final episode of Moesha ended with the discovery of a positive pregnancy test in Moesha's dorm room, but nobody knew which character it belonged to, and the show was cancelled before this mystery could be solved. The three main suspects were Moesha herself, her best friend Nisi, and their roommate Alicia, since all three young women were living in the dorm and had been involved in romantic relationships during the final season. Fans spent years debating and theorizing about which character might have been pregnant, with each possibility offering a completely different direction for where the story might have gone. What most fans never knew was that the writers and producers had actually planned to reveal the answer to this mystery, just not on Moesha itself. According to a report from Entertainment Weekly in July of 2001, the plan was to resolve the pregnancy cliffhanger on the Parkers, which was the successful spin-off series starring Countess Vaughn as Kim Parker and comedian Monique as her mother Nikki. The Parkers had premiered in 1999, 2 years before Moesha ended, and was still running strong when Moesha was cancelled. Since Kim Parker had been one of Moesha's main characters before getting her own show, it made sense that the Parkers could serve as a bridge to resolve the unfinished storylines from the original series. The plan even included having Brandy make a guest appearance on the Parkers to help reveal which character had been pregnant. Unfortunately, this resolution never actually happened, and the reasons why remain unclear even today. The Parkers continued running until 2005, giving the writers plenty of opportunities to address the mystery, but they never followed through on the original plan. This means that fans were left permanently in the dark about one of the biggest cliffhangers in sitcom history, with no official answer ever provided about whose pregnancy test was discovered in that final episode. Fact 11. It was the first black sitcom to address LGBTQ+ themes. Moesha made television history by becoming the first black-cast sitcom to dedicate an entire episode to exploring themes of sexuality and identity among teenagers. This groundbreaking episode, titled Labels, aired on October 1, 1996, during the show's first season, and it tackled subject matter that was rarely discussed on any television show at the time, let alone on a sitcom aimed at young audiences. The episode centered around a character named Omar, who was Hakeem's cousin and came to stay with the Mitchell family for a visit. Initially, everyone in the family was worried that Omar might be another troublemaker like Hakeem. But it quickly became clear that Omar was actually quite responsible and well-behaved. Moesha, who was still dealing with her recent breakup with her boyfriend Q, decided to go on a date with Omar to help herself move on from her previous relationship. During their date, Moesha and Omar went to see a movie together, and afterward they met up with one of Omar's friends named Tracy. This encounter led Moesha to start questioning Omar's sexuality, as she began to suspect that he might be gay based on his interactions with Tracy and other observations she made throughout their time together. Rather than keeping her suspicions to herself, Moesha decided to share her thoughts with her best friends Kim and Nisi. Unfortunately, this conversation didn't stay private for very long, and soon the gossip had spread throughout their entire school. When Hakeem eventually heard about the rumors that his cousin might be gay, Moesha realized that her decision to share her suspicions had potentially caused serious problems for Omar and damaged her friendship with Hakeem. The episode was significant not only because it addressed questions of sexual identity among teenagers, but also because it showed how rumors and assumptions about sexuality could spread and cause harm within a community. By choosing to tackle this sensitive subject matter during its first season, Moesha established itself as a show that was willing to take on important social issues that other programs were avoiding. Fact 12. Maya Angelou convinced Moesha to return to college. In one of the most surprising celebrity appearances in sitcom history, the legendary poet and author Maya Angelou guest-starred on Moesha as herself, playing a crucial role in helping the main character make an important life decision about her education. This appearance was particularly meaningful because Angelou was one of the most respected literary figures in America, known for her powerful autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and her inspiring poetry that had touched millions of readers around the world. The episode featuring Maya Angelou dealt with a storyline where Moesha had reached a crossroads in her life regarding her college education. She had managed to land a job opportunity that seemed appealing and offered her immediate financial benefits, which made her seriously consider leaving college to pursue this career path instead of continuing with her studies. This was a dilemma that many young people face when they're trying to balance the immediate appeal of earning money with the long-term benefits of completing their education. Maya Angelou's character served as a wise mentor figure who understood the importance of education and wanted to help Moesha see the bigger picture beyond the immediate temptation of leaving school for work. As someone who had overcome tremendous obstacles in her own life and had become successful through her dedication to learning and writing, Angelou was the perfect person to deliver this message to both Moesha and the show's young viewers. The fact that the producers were able to convince Maya Angelou to appear on a teenage sitcom was remarkable, considering her status as one of the most important cultural figures of the 20th century. Her willingness to participate in the show demonstrated how seriously she took the responsibility of reaching young audiences with positive messages about the value of education and perseverance. Angelou's appearance on Moesha represented a rare moment when high literature and popular culture came together, giving the show's audience the opportunity to be exposed to one of America's greatest writers in a format they were comfortable with and could easily relate to. Fact 13. The show launched a TV universe. Long before Marvel movies made shared universes a household concept, Moesha quietly created one of television's most successful interconnected worlds, spawning multiple shows that shared characters, storylines, and settings across more than a decade of programming. What started as a simple sitcom about a teenage girl in Los Angeles eventually grew into an entire entertainment ecosystem that connected 4 different television series through carefully planned crossovers and character relationships. The most direct spin-off was The Parkers, which premiered in 1999 and followed Kim Parker, Moesha's boy-crazy best friend, as she attended community college alongside her mother Nikki. This show starred Countess Vaughn, reprising her role as Kim, and featured comedian Monique as her mother, creating a successful series that ran for 5 seasons and frequently featured guest appearances from original Moesha cast members. The universe expanded further when Mara Brock Akil, who had been a writer on Moesha, created a new show called Girlfriends that was set in the same Los Angeles neighborhood of Leimert Park where the Mitchell family lived. While Girlfriends wasn't technically a direct spin-off, it existed in the same world as Moesha, and this connection was made clear when Maya Wilkes, one of the main characters from Girlfriends, appeared in an episode of Moesha babysitting for her sister-in-law Barbara Lee, who turned out to be Dorian's birth mother. The shared universe grew even larger when the game was created as a spin-off of Girlfriends, following the story of Melanie Barnett, who was established as a cousin of Joan Clayton from Girlfriends. The connections became even more complex when Brandy herself joined the cast of the game in its 5th season, playing a character named Chardonnay Pitts, which created an interesting situation where the actress who had played Moesha was now part of the same fictional universe as her original character. This interconnected world allowed characters to move between shows, storylines to continue across different series, and gave viewers a sense that they were watching one large, extended community rather than separate programs. Fact 14. Brandy played herself and Moesha. In one of the most unusual and creative episodes in sitcom history, Brandy took on the challenge of playing 2 completely different roles in the same episode, appearing as both her real-life celebrity self and her fictional character, Moesha Mitchell. This meta approach to storytelling created a bizarre situation where viewers watched the same actress interact with herself on screen, essentially having a conversation between a fictional teenager and a real-life pop star. The episode was built around the concept that Moesha would somehow encounter Brandy the singer, who happened to look exactly like her, creating a celebrity doppelganger situation that allowed the show to explore themes about identity, fame, and self-perception. This storyline required incredible technical skill from the production team, who had to use special filming techniques and careful editing to make it appear as though Brandy was actually talking to herself throughout the episode. From an acting perspective, this presented unique challenges for Brandy, who had to switch back and forth between playing her established character of Moesha and playing a version of herself as a famous recording artist. She needed to differentiate between the two roles through changes in her voice, body language, and personality, making it clear to viewers which character she was portraying in each scene, even though both characters looked identical. The technical aspects of filming this episode were particularly complex because the production team had to use split-screen techniques and body doubles to create scenes where both versions of Brandy appeared together. This required precise timing and careful coordination to make the interactions between the two characters appear natural and believable, despite the fact that they were actually the same person filmed at different times. This meta-episode was notable for being ahead of its time in terms of self-referential television comedy, predating many of the shows that would later become famous for breaking the fourth wall and acknowledging their own fictional nature. The episode demonstrated the show's willingness to experiment with unconventional storytelling techniques and showed that even a relatively straightforward teen sitcom could push creative boundaries when the right opportunity presented itself. Fact 15. The series ended with 2 unresolved cliffhangers. When Moesha aired its final episode in May of 2001, it left viewers with not just one unresolved mystery, but 2 major cliffhangers that would never be explained, creating what many consider to be one of the most frustrating series finales in television history. The show was unexpectedly canceled after its 6th season, which meant that the writers had no opportunity to wrap up the storylines they had been developing, leaving fans permanently wondering about the fate of several beloved characters. The first cliffhanger involved the discovery of a positive pregnancy test in Moesha's college dorm room, but the show ended without revealing which character was actually pregnant. The 3 main possibilities were Moesha herself, her best friend and roommate Nisi, or their other roommate Alicia, since all 3 young women had been involved in romantic relationships and any of them could have been the expectant mother. This mystery was particularly frustrating because a pregnancy would have dramatically changed the direction of whichever character's life was affected. The second cliffhanger was even more dramatic and involved Moesha's younger brother Miles being kidnapped by someone connected to Dorian's troubled past. This storyline emerged from Dorian's involvement with dangerous people through his attempts to break into the music industry. And when a business deal went wrong, Miles became an innocent victim who was taken by people seeking revenge against Dorian. The final episode ended with Miles missing and his family desperately trying to find him. What made these cliffhangers especially painful for fans was that the show had been running successfully for 6 seasons and had built up strong emotional connections between viewers and the characters. People had watched Moesha grow from a high school student into a college-aged young woman, and they had become invested in the lives of her family members and friends. To have the series end abruptly without resolving these major storylines felt like a betrayal to the audience who had been loyal to the show throughout its run. The combination of these 2 unresolved mysteries has kept Moesha fans speculating and debating for more than 20 years about what might have happened if the show had continued.